Why do so many young men nowadays lack purpose? We've seen an uproar, this kind of movement of masculinity, let's say in the past 10 years, in response to this lack of purpose. We have seen life begin to balance itself out. The rise of degeneracy and the promotion of self-destructive behavior. There's been a very strong need for masculinity, for men who are powerful, who are strong. Because when the incredibly powerful destructive nature of chaos, when this force becomes overwhelming, when it begins to erode the structure of society, the systems that we've built, the only remedy is order. And order is the very nature of masculinity. And so it is because life has become easy for men in first world countries that there is no need for strong masculine traits. Masculinity is only required to defend against the harsh nature of reality, to provide safety and to provide security. But when the government fulfills that role, when society is naturally safe almost all the time, the environment no longer needs to select for strong men. But this deep masculine nature does not simply go away, it's just simply gone dormant. It's gone into the unconscious, into the shadow. And for young men who have no purpose or who lack deep meaning in their life, the shadow is where they will find their masculinity. And so if one wishes to release this masculine energy, release it from the darkness, from the shadows, then one must create an environment in which that energy is called upon. And that energy is not needed in an environment that is comfortable. It is not needed in an environment of safety and security. Because wherever there is safety and security, the masculine has already fulfilled its purpose. One of my favorite teachers, a man named Wes Watson, talks a lot about this idea of self-inflicting adversity. Because in a world, in a society that's generally so safe all the time, you won't have the same opportunities for the masculine to shine. And so we must create them ourselves. If you think back to the beginning of human history, if you could imagine, the environment was almost completely hostile to life at all times. The destructive power of nature reigned supreme. And so in order for human beings to survive, the environment had to select for only the strongest, most masculine human beings, which you might call the alphas. And so the purpose of the alpha is to create boundaries, to create stability, safety and security and order in the environment, to create a kind of bubble that protects against the destructive force of chaos. And it is only in this bubble in which the feminine can thrive. And so you see, what we are going through now is a cyclical process in which the alpha human beings create structure, they create society, they create the systems in which we live off of. And then the feminine thrives within it. But the feminine power is chaos. Mother Nature is chaos. And so what happens when there is too much chaos from within, the system begins eroding and it is destroyed from within itself. When there is too much femininity in society, when men become feminized, then the overwhelming force of chaos begins to be too much to bear. And so this is why we have seen a rise in masculinity, this kind of masculine movement, because it is a response to the feminization of men in Western culture. And again, it's not a problem of right or wrong. It's much more mathematic and practical and rational. It's that when the amount of chaos in a system begins outweighing the order, then the system falls apart. And so in order for the system to return to equilibrium, to remain balanced, the order, the masculine, must rise up. This is the root of the saying that hard times create strong men create good times create weak men, and weak men create hard times. It's the balance of order and chaos. It's the dance between the yin and the yang. And so this is this kind of battle that we are facing now in today's society. And you can see there's this kind of underlying war between men and women. You see it all over social media. People are not getting married. Less people are having families. But eventually, things will return to a state of equilibrium, of balance. With chaos often comes suffering, and the more suffering we experience, the more we call out to be saved, the more we call for protection and safety. Don't call upon the wrong thing. Do not call upon an external force to come save you, because this is what the Germans did in World War II, and they got what they asked for. They got the order in response to the chaos, and so too they got death and destruction, because the swing of the pendulum went too far the other way. Too much chaos is death and destruction, and too much order is death and destruction. This is a very real danger that we will go through. And what will you give up for safety and security? What will you sacrifice to avoid pain? Cowards will give up everything just to be safe. The only true protection, the only true safety and security exists right now in the present moment. It exists in the eternal. It can only be found in God. But the earthly men and women who do not see God will seek this safety and security in governments, in leaders, in the powers that be. And they will sell their soul to save their bodies. But it is better to sacrifice the body to save the soul. When you have a deep relationship with God, it matters not so much what happens to us. We can be physically a slave, but free in our mind, free in spirit. And so too, you can be free physically and be a slave in the mind. So I say, do not focus so much on the content of the external reality that we experience. Focus on the deep peace and joy that emerges within this present moment. Focus on God. Ask for God's safety and security. That is the only way we can make it through any kind of difficult situation. What they call God the Father, this is the true source of all masculinity, of all protection. And no man or no system, no entity can ever compare. Everything in the external world comes with conditions, with strings attached. There will never be true safety. And so for young men who desire to be masculine, the key is to become one with a deep sense of inner presence or inner being, to be rooted and grounded in the present, to also be a servant of God. Because when you are grounded in the present, you become non-reactive to the world around you. Things do not trigger you as easily. People cannot tug on your emotions. You are not so easily manipulated by your thoughts. You are at peace. And this is what is needed in order for the feminine to thrive. If as a man you are chaotic, well, then you will need an orderly woman to balance you. And some women are more masculine than others. They would much prefer to not have to play that role. Because what is chaotic is unreliable. It's always changing. But what is orderly, what is masculine, is stable. It's reliable. You can trust it. So ask yourself, are you a trustworthy man? Or are you relying on something that is chaotic or unreliable? Find what is stable, find what is eternal, find the truth, and build the foundation of your life upon this rock. Only then can one survive any storm, any difficulty, any problem. Otherwise, there's a risk of being washed away, of being destroyed. Seek the truth and you will find it. Do not sacrifice your character, your morality, for a false sense of safety. Because there will be this temptation, and many will fall into it and give in, and they will pay dearly for it. Don't be that person.